Ho, 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 ho. Merry. Wait a minute. This is not Christmas. It's not even December yet. K-Man, what are you talking about Christmas for when it's the middle of summer? Well, I figured that since we're at the halfway mark, or at the very least of when recording this is at the halfway mark, that I'd wish everybody a very happy, Merry Christmas. Rewind that. I just wanted to wish everybody a merry, happy half Christmas. And if you're not celebrating a half Christmas, then who are you? What are you doing here? And why are you listening to Thoughts of a Krazy Man?
Wait a minute! Who are you?
Don't you know? Don't you know who I am? I'm the K-Man, man. Or is that? I think there's too many mans in that. Anyway. For those that don't know who I am, or those that haven't heard a podcast in a while because it's been a while since I recorded one of these, I am the K-Man, the Krazy Man himself, Krazy K. And I am the host of Thoughts of a Krazy Man. And for anybody that don't know, this show is basically me taking random topics and giving a little bit of facts, giving a little bit of my opinion, and throwing in a whole watch of craziness. Whole watch?
What is wrong with you?
Dang, I'm off tonight on my speech. Anyways, the show's basically me taking random topics, giving a little bit of fact, giving a little bit of my own opinion, and throwing in a whole lot of craziness. And I want to apologize before we continue on if there's any noise in the background. I'm trying to keep the fans on at a minimum, but with it being 80 degrees in the middle of the night, I'm trying not to burn up like Santa in a chimney.
Oh, hot, 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 hot! Hot, 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 hot!
So with that being said, let's get on with Thoughts of a Krazy Man, the Half Christmas special. So basically, my original idea was to talk about purely magic. Because I've always been fascinated by that. Of course, if you listen to any of my previous podcasts, or if you follow me on social media, you know that I am big on supernatural stuff. I'm big on UFOs. I'm big on space. I'm big on supernatural as in ghost, magic, and whatever else. I've always been fascinated by it. Now, you can sit there and say that I'm crazy.
Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?
Without a K. And say that I shouldn't be believing in stuff like that, or that there's no way that anything like that exists. But that's your opinion, just like this is my opinion. But as the story goes, life moves on.
Life goes oiny, 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 oiny.
So my original idea was to talk about magic in whole, but I'm thinking along the lines of maybe breaking it up into different podcasts. Now, if I decide to do a full-on magic type podcast, without breaking it up? I haven't decided yet, but I figured that since we are at that halfway mark, that we are around June 25th, which is the halfway point to Christmas, that I talk about Christmas, magic, and the origins of the great Santa Claus.
Mr. Santos. The name is Santa Claus.
And boy, let me tell you, I have read about stuff that you're looking at. I have been on this earth for many moons, many, many, many moons. And there are celebrations and traditions all around the world that I had not heard of, and I thought I had heard of all of them. So I guess we should start at the beginning. Now, there are many reasons why people celebrate Christmas or celebrate some type of holiday during that time of year. Some do it just because they love the holiday season, they love the time of year. Some people celebrate it because that is when the winter solstice is. Some people do it because of religious reasons. But the bottom line is that there are many people around the world that come together to celebrate in one form or fashion the day that we know as December 25th. Contrary to popular belief, and yes, there are beliefs out there other than your own.
La 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 la.
And other than what I believe in.
La 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 la.
But in any case, back even before the birth of Christ, back before 1st century BC, you had the Romans that celebrated a holiday that they called Saturnalia. I may be pronouncing that wrong. I apologize if I am. But it was in honor of the god Saturn. It was held December 17th and eventually would be extended out through December 23rd so they could have themselves a 7-day festival. And it would usually entail sacrifices at the Temple of Saturn, public banquets, and even private gift giving. And it was something that even for the slaves of the time could celebrate. It was basically the Romans' version of the Greek holiday Kronina. And I will go ahead and just get it out the way now. I will probably be mispronouncing a lot of names and stuff like that throughout this thing as I talk about different holiday traditions and different wars throughout the world. And I do apologize. But as I was saying is that basically theirs was the equivalent of the Greek holiday Kronina, which was a celebrated during the late midsummer. It was held in importance for the Romans as they saw it as a restoration of the ancient golden age when the world was ruled by Saturn. And that is where some of Europe's midwinter traditions came from, as far as when it comes to Christmas, was because of like the Feast of the Holy Innocents and whatnot. That was something that was incorporated into their holidays, into their celebrations. But we're going to talk a little bit more about this one, though I will throw in a lot more of talk about Christmas traditions and talking about how different cultures have similar but different beings and followings that they all come from similar backgrounds and whatnot. But like I said, is that this is more along the lines of magic. And regardless of, like I said, regardless if I talk about each individual magic being or situation or what have you in its own individual podcast, or if I, in the next podcast or some future podcasts, I talk about magic as a whole. I haven't made up my mind yet. But like I said, this one's going to be talking about magic, dealing with a little bit of Christmas, because of course, naturally, you can't talk about Santa without talking about Christmas. But I did want to talk about the being himself and the lore behind him. And I'm pretty sure that most people that follow Christmas, that regardless if they're religious or not, they know the story of the origins of St. Nicholas. And if not, then maybe you'll learn a little bit something with this podcast. Before he was the jolly old man in the red suit with the twinkling eyes and the rosy cheeks and the belly that shook when he laughed like it was a bowl full of jelly. There was a man that they claimed was the inspiration, that was the first ever
Père Noël. Babo Natali. Père Nicole.
Papa Gijo.
Santa Claus. And that was the 4th century Greek bishop known as St. Nicholas. He was a man that throughout his lifetime, he had his ups and downs just like the rest of us. There's been stories and tales of how he had to go through somewhat of a slavery himself, at least imprisoned. But he never gave up his generosity and his kindness. One of the most popular stories, the one that is told more than anything else, was of how he threw a dowry of money into the house of 3 sisters that were very poor. And as he did, the money landed in some stockings that they had hung out to dry. That's where a lot of people claim that the tradition of hanging your stockings by the fireplace came to be, along with very more, along with other traditions that come along throughout his lifetime. Born in the region of Lycidia, in what we now call Turkey, Nicholas was, as I said, a very generous person. He would go out of his way to give dowries to women, to the daughters of women and whatnot, so they would not have to become prostitutes in order to survive. He was very deep into his religion and devoted his entire life to Christianity. And though he may not have been this bowl full of jelly fat man that we have come to know, if you look at any of his portraits, especially ones that are depicted from the 13th century, he is very, very smaller than what the Santa Claus we know is. But the one thing that is always been depicted of him has always been his beard and his rosy red cheeks. And there are many interpretations of Santa Claus, depending on where you go around the world, such as the Dutch, the Belgian, and the Swiss. They all believe in a character of Santa Claus that they call Sinterklaas, which is based loosely around St. Nicholas. And in French, he's known as Père Noël. For the children of the Netherlands, Sinterklaas, my mistake, remains a prominent gift giver in December. But Santa Claus, is not the only person that likes to go around and give gifts to good boys and girls, leaving lumps of coal and other unsavory things to the bad boys and girls. There's also Befana, which is an Italian being, an Italian woman, witch. She's been called many different things. That, from what the little bit of research that I have been able to find on her, is that it started somewhere around the Middle Ages, and
how's it going, Royal Ugly Dudes?
She basically does the same as Santa. She comes in, she leaves gifts for the good boys and girls, and sometimes they leave stuff for her, just as in more modern traditions, especially in the Western culture, how we give cookies to Santa, and even now as far as giving carrots and whatnot for his reindeer. But she's very widespread traditional amongst the Italians. And then I'm going to be honest, I didn't even know she existed until I had started doing my research on Santa Claus. But apparently she's been known by different names or variations of the name Befana. But basically, her name translates to an old woman or witch, depending on how you pronounce her name or what variation of the name that you go by. She's portrayed as having ember eyes, very feline teeth, and a tongue that can cut you. But unlike the traditions of Santa Claus or Christmas in itself, she doesn't come around December 25th. Instead, she's known to come once a year on the night of January 5th, leaving the cave that she supposedly lives in, and flies through the air and brings toys and candies to all the good kids, and brings coal and cinders to the naughty children of Italy. Now, in poor parts of the country, especially rural Sicily, a stick and a stocking was placed instead of coal. During my research, I found out that she wasn't also the only one that does this, that the only one that doesn't come around on December 25th. As in Barcelona, Spain, you have three wise men that brings gifts from, I can't speak,
If you have something to say, then just spit it out already.
from the 5th through the 6th of January. The Three Kings Days are also known as Rays, is a celebration that is done by families across the entire Iberian Peninsula and Spanish islands. And not to get off subject, but I do have to say this real quick, is that is one thing that we have lost over time, is traditions that are passed down from generation to generation. Because I bring that up because of the fact that this is the first time that I ever heard of the Three Kings Day. And if you go far enough back into my ancestry, I have Iberian ancestors. But like I said, because nobody in my family on either side of my family has never spoke of this holiday, I didn't know anything about it. And that is the one good thing about doing research and looking into history and seeing what's out there and whatnot, because you will discover stuff that not only that relates to you personally or to your family ancestors, but just the world in general. It's just a fascinating thing. And that's one thing that I liked about whenever I was doing research for this, was just because of the fact that I learned so much stuff about the holiday in itself that I never knew about. But anyways, getting back to the whole Three Kings Days, is that, from my understanding, is that that's where the 12 days of Christmas actually comes from. Is that it's not just a song for you to sing, just to have a song to sing, but it's actually, from my understanding, Christmas kicks off on the 25th, right? Well, it carries on through the 6th. That gives you the 12 days. And then the UK, well, that basically means that the 6th day is meant for whenever you go to take your Christmas decorations down and leave them up longer, is supposed to be bad luck, which might be the reason why everything started falling apart last year, because I didn't take out my Christmas tree last year, until I had bought a new one for this past Christmas. Yeah, I was one of those people that left their Christmas tree up all year. But it was something to look at least. But yeah, it's a celebration that is in Spain. That's Barcelona and the islands and whatnot. And it's something that has been a tradition for many generations, and something that very few knew about, including myself, which, like I said, I have people in my family that are originally from the Iberian Peninsula. But anyways, let's get into the magic part, shall we? So it's always been fascinated about how and where Santa Claus, or beings as him and such, get their magic. I mean, there's lots of theories, like, for those that, regardless if they actually believe in magic or if they just want to say, or if they just want to do a hypothesis about, yeah, if there is a such thing as magic, then this is where it's possibly coming from. There are so many theories about it. I mean, you're going to have the aspects of religious people that's going to say, well, if there is a Santa Claus out there, that then he must be getting his magic from God. He must be getting his magic from a Holy Spirit as such. You have people that just believes that it's just a way of the universe. It's that basically there's magic all around us and that we can all use it. It's just that very few do or can use it or know how to use it, however you want to say it. And that Santa Claus is one of them. And that is a very interesting aspect of the whole deal. I mean, because regardless if you look at it, somehow, some way, this man, be it the jolly man in the red suit, or the elf, or the witch, whoever you look at as your Santa Claus, as your magical being, as your gift giver, that person, they somehow are able to, especially Santa Claus. I know a lot of these other places, they're more or less in one general area, so it would not be hard to believe for a person to do a whole city or a whole country within 1 or 2 nights. But you're looking at for Santa Claus in general, St. Nicholas, he is the man that he can travel around the whole world and deliver presents to good boys and girls all over the place. And now, I will state that there are many people that don't believe in Santa, that don't follow the traditions of Santa, that don't follow Christianity and Christmas in general and whatnot. And so you can eliminate those people, but you're still looking at that's millions of children around the world that he supposedly still visits every single year, once a year. And depending on what you believe depends on when he starts. Some people claim that it's as soon as you fall asleep. Some people claim that it's not until midnight of your local time zone. So saying as soon as it might be noontime somewhere in the United States, but on the other side of the world it might be midnight. And so that's when he begins his descent across the world. That's whenever he starts delivering gifts and whatnot. And I mean, it's possible. He could very well be from midnight to right before daybreak, be delivering presents. But the question is how is he doing it? And also, you looking at the sack that he carries upon his back. I mean, you looking at maybe not every single child that believes in him or whatnot. Maybe not every last one of them is a good kid. So maybe not every last one of them is getting a gift. But there's still, even if you subtract, because I will say this, not every kid is 100% purely good. I mean, we all, at some point in our childhood, have done stuff that we knew we weren't supposed to do.
You're in big trouble, mister.
We disobeyed a parental order. We didn't listen to our teachers. We might have did something that wasn't necessarily bad, but was something that we knew we weren't supposed to do. But in any case, in my mind, and I believe it would be in the mind of Santa as well, is that stuff like that is overlooked. And at the core of the heart of the child is what is looked at. And that is how they determine if they get a gift or not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you do have to be pure heart. Maybe that's the reason why I haven't got a Christmas gift from Santa in since I've turned into an adult. Just kidding. But he does owe me $50 for a poker game. So anyway, I'm kidding. Where was I? Oh yeah. But you're looking at there's still going to be hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of children around the world that will be getting gifts. And you're looking at even at the biggest, the bag that he has on his back would not be able to hold every toy that a child has asked for. So you would have to look at that bag would have to be magical as well. And if you look at there, depending on what you believe in and whatnot, now I will be saying that a lot because of the fact that it does come down to beliefs, how strongly you believe in something, what you believe in something, and why you believe in something. That determines a lot of what you will understand, what you will accept, and whatever else. Not only in my ranting on this podcast, but just life in general. But movies have always portrayed the bag to be differently. I mean, if you look at Ernest Saves Christmas, all of them have these little bitty orbs that when you take them out the bag, they turn into whatever toy is supposed to be giving at that location to that child, to that little boy and girl and whatnot. And so you had that. I think it was the Christmas Chronicles. You have where it's basically a portal to the North Pole where Santa Claus is toy shop is located at. And when he digs into the bag, he's basically reaching in and reaching to his toy shop and pulling out something like that. Or, well, I take that back now thinking about it because, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen the movie, but the toys were in the bag itself, but somehow it was still connected to his workshop. And then you have the movie, the more famous movie, the one that pretty much anybody that knows anything about Christmas knows about, is Tim Allen with his movie, The Santa Claus. And that one pretty much, it didn't show how they were in the bag. They just showed that when he pulled something out of the bag, it was already the size and shape of it was already the full thing that he's supposed to be pulling out, which I still don't know how they got that kayak in that bag, but whenever he was pulling out to give gifts away. But yeah, I mean, it kind of makes you think, it kind of makes you wonder, where does that magic come from? And like I said, regardless if you're religious or not, I think there is a little bit of magic within the universe. Now, how you access that magic, that's a whole nother story. That's something that I will have to look further into whenever I do more about magic in further podcasts. But for this one, there's different ways that people claim. Like I said, you have the religious aspect where people claim that God had gave him his powers or whatnot. I mean, such as okay. You want to talk about giving away powers? It was not a religious aspect. It didn't even mention anything about a god or gods or anything like that. But you do have in the Christmas Chronicles, you have where it was, I believe it was elves or gnomes that had given Santa Claus his powers. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was in the second movie, the second Christmas Chronicles, where they showed that. I could be wrong. Like I said, it's been a while since I've seen both of them, but they are pretty good movies. I suggest you check them out. But you have the aspect of someone or something giving him his powers, such as a being that, as God or as elves or whatnot, giving him those powers. I've seen on one website where they claimed that he had to have his hat, which they kind of give that in the Christmas Chronicles as well, where in the Christmas Chronicles, it was more or less a plot device just to more or less trick the kids into being good, but Santa sitting there temporarily not having his powers because he didn't have his hat. And there was a website, I forget which website it was, but there was one that I remember seeing where they said that his power came from his hat. Now, where the hat originally came from, they did not say. That's still a mystery. But they said that he had to have his hat in order to be able to do the magic that he has. Some people believe that it's just a belief. Like, you have to, just like if you take the old days of not just necessarily the Greek and Roman gods, but just in general, where people had this theory of that the gods got their powers from the beliefs from the people that they had created and that they had ruled over. And I'm not saying that Santa rules over people. I'm just saying that it is one of those deals where there's people that think that you have to believe, such as like Peter Pan. Like, you had to believe that fairies and pixies and whatnot were real in order for them to live. That you had that was the whole deal with Peter Pan, is that you had to believe and you had to clap your hands if you believed that Tinker Bell was real and that she had magic and that she was who she was, and that's how she's supposed to come back to life. And some people think that the belief in Santa is what gives him his powers. Going back to that website about the hat, they also talked about how the reindeer have their powers in order to fly. That basically, from my understanding, is that the bells that are attached to the reins of the sled, they are somehow connected to the hat, and that's where they get their powers, and that it transfers, when connected, it transfers to the reindeer, and that's how they fly. That could be the possibility. It could be the possibility that there is a such thing as pixie dust or a variation of that. I don't know. That's the greatest thing about it, is that it's magic. It could come from anywhere. It could come from within your heart. It can come from within your mind. It could just come from within your inner being. I don't want to get too much into this because I don't want to make this all about religion, but people believe that our souls are all connected, that everybody has a soul or everything. You could go into the Native American and other such groups that believes that every being, every object, regardless if it's a soul or some type of guardian over everything, and those things are all connected. Our souls or our essence or whatever you want to call it, is all connected. And that energy of our connection is where the magic comes from. Who knows? It could be. I don't know. All I know is that regardless if you believe what you believe in as far as Santa Claus goes, you believe that he's a man that was once a bishop, or if you believe he's a big old fat man in a red suit, he travels around the world in a single night and can go down the skinniest of chimneys into your house and drop off those gifts to all the good little boys and girls. And that is something that you can't deny is anything more or anything less than magic. I mean, yes, you can make the argument that you don't believe in Santa, you don't believe in magic, that there's no such thing, yes, you can. There is a lot of evidence to support that. But just for argument's sake, just for this podcast, just for this little bit of time that we're speaking on, we'll just say for argument's sake that it is 100% guaranteed real. Then I want you to explain to me how that could be. Where does it all come from? That's what I like to know. Because I mean, it's such a fascinating thing, and I'll get into it more in a later on down the line podcast. But to go back to the belief system, that was one of the key elements. I don't know how many people remember, but there was a movie back in 2005 that was called The Skeleton Key, and that centered around the location was I think it was in New Orleans, because I know the premise had a lot to do with voodoo, but it basically the whole premise was is that they had to get the main characters to believe in magic or believe in voodoo in order for it to work on them. Because as long as they didn't believe in it, then nothing would work against them. I mean, who knows? Maybe that's where it all comes from. Maybe it comes from belief, and that might be the reason why. That could be the reason why, not just with Santa Claus, but just magic in general. That might be why we don't see stuff like that as much anymore. That might be why things that fascinated and awed people back thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years ago, that might be the reason why we don't see or hear Santa Claus as we did at one time. That it might just be because of the fact that with less and less people believing, that means that less and less magic is being shuffled throughout the world, and so less and less the magic of Christmas, the magic of Santa Claus slowly fades to where very few, if any, sees and hears and has witnessed the magic that we do know as Christmas. I don't know. I could be wrong. I could be way off base on this one. Not to say that I'm way off base on a lot of stuff, but I mean that's what this program is all about. Yes, what I talk about does sound a little crazy, and that's the reason why I named this show Thoughts of a Krazy Man, because it's my thoughts. Like I said, we throw in a little facts, we throw in a little of my opinion, and we throw in a whole lot of fun craziness. But one thing's for sure, I will make you think about something, even if it's on the most unrealistic of levels. But I don't know. It just seems like that is a good possibility, don't you? I kind of wish I had other people to talk to right now. That way I could get their thoughts and whatnot on the whole situation of not just Santa Claus, not just Christmas, but on magic and on other stuff, because I think this is a discussion that if you have enough people, it definitely is something that could be talked about. And we could probably make this, instead of like a 40-minute podcast, we could turn this into an hour, 2 hours, probably even 5-hour podcast. I'm not saying that I want to do a 5-hour podcast, because I've been on those before, and I've had some that were fun, and I've had some that I was tired afterwards. But anyways, yeah, we definitely would it would be definitely great to be able to talk about that. But yeah, all you gotta do is you just let me Let me know what y'all think about some of this stuff. I mean, this is probably going to be short just because of the fact that I would like to get it out there within the next few days, but at least by the 4th of July, anyways, which that's not too far away. And that would also tie into, it might not be the half Christmas like I had thought of, that I had wanted to, but at least it would still be in the realm of the whole Christmas, and like how they say Christmas in July. So you have half Christmas in January 25th, but then you have Christmas in July. I know y'all probably don't want to hear anything about Christmas this time of year, but hey, you're listening to my podcast, so what can I say? It's all on you. But nah, I mean, y'all know where to catch me on all my social medias. I mean, if y'all on, I guess you want to call it X now, formerly Twitter. If you're on X, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, I think I have others that I haven't been on in a while. I don't personally have a Discord, but I do follow other people that have Discord. So maybe if you can find the K-Man on there, we can talk it out on there as well. But if you're on like X, aka formerly Twitter, you can find me on there as the OG K-Man. That's THAOGKMAN. You can find me on Instagram as well. And I think as far as you can find me as the K-Man on Facebook as well. Bottom line is that if you search the K-Man, and that's spelled THA, if you search me up on any of those types of websites or apps and whatnot, you're probably going to find me on there. So yeah, just send me a message or something on there. Let me know what you think about this podcast. Let me know what you think about the old podcast that I had prior to that. I mean, let me know. I know, granted, this one wasn't as crazy as the other ones I've done. I mean, I'm a little bit more laid back today as I normally am. And I'm not making the goofy comments like I normally do, which I'll try to make up for that in future broadcasts. I mean, other than that, I mean, why if I didn't, then I wouldn't be the K-Man. I wouldn't be Crazy K. I wouldn't be who I am. But nah, it's just more or less, I think, because of the fact that I've been up for so long, and like I said, it's past the middle of the night. So, but anyways, yeah, find me on X, find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook, find me wherever. The K-Man, the OG K-Man, wherever. Send me a DM, send me a message on one of those platforms. Catch me on YouTube. I mean, you may be listening to this podcast on YouTube. I don't know, because I stream out to everybody. I do Spotify, I do Apple Music, I do YouTube. I'm about to start putting everything on Odyssey and Rumble as well. It's all going out there. That way, no matter where you are listening from, or no matter where you're at, you can listen from anywhere. But yeah, send me a message. Let me know what you think about this podcast. Let me know what you think about the other podcasts. Give me ideas on what you would like to hear, what you would like me to talk about. Let me know what is interesting to you. And maybe I might be able to throw it in, do a little podcast beat. And hopefully, maybe further down the line, we'll add more people to the discussion. And that way we can make it we can make it a little bit more informative. We can make it a little bit more fun. And also, you can hear more voices other than myself whenever I talk about this type of stuff. But for now, I think I'm just going to go ahead and head out. Like I said, unfortunately, this is going to make it a short podcast, but at least I'm getting it out there and I'm finally getting everything back on track. And like I said, I don't know what the next podcast is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be fully magic or if it's going to be about a certain being, like, and I might be talking about leprechauns the next time. I don't know. We might talk about the Loch Ness Monster. I don't know. As far as that goes, we could sit there and talk about something that is totally off the wall that nobody has ever heard of before. I don't know. You don't know. We don't know. All we know, all that anybody knows, including myself, is that there will be another podcast. And like I said, I will be trying to do these at least once a month, hopefully more than that, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully, I will see y'all around. I did this the last time that I did a podcast, but I cannot see you because even if I was live streaming, I still would not be able to see y'all. But anyways, hopefully y'all here for the next one. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this one. Y'all give me a shout out or shout out, rewind. Shout me out on any of these platforms and let me know what y'all think. And I will talk to y'all later. And always remember, it's a crazy world out there and you gotta be crazy to survive. Later.